Ever since Young Thug burst onto the hip-hop scene with one of his earliest hits back in 2014, Stoner, it wasn't hard to tell how much of a weed fanatic Young Thug was. Enter Young Stoner Life, abbreviated to YSL. This is a formal name given to Young Thug's own record label, which over the span of its short lifetime has allowed Young Thug to flex his CEO muscle. And in the lead up to Slime Language 2, a YSL collaboration project that is poised to feature a plethora of the YSL family and is the follow-up to 2018 Slime Language, we wanted to take a look at the history of the label, its start, and how Young Thug got involved. So the label would officially become an entity to the public at least in November of 2016. However, the story begins much before that, and in fact Young Thug would speak about starting a record label in this complex interview from 2014, mentioning that he started a record label to help put his family and friends on in the music game, and even back then he had the name for it, Young Stoner Life. And to Young Thug fans, YSL has long been a recognizable name as he's consistently dropped it in songs even before the label became an official thing, such as Problem from Slime Season 3, where he called YSL the Private Flat Gang in the now iconic intro.
YSL, we're YSL, aka Private Flat Gang, you know.
This then brings us to November of 2016 with the official uncovering of YSL as a label, which was accompanied by this video of Young Thug in the YSL office.
Quick question.
YSL as a label functions as an imprint of 300 Entertainment, which is a label that Young Thug is currently signed to. Now, YSL in terms of the groups of artists that signed to it is quite literally made up of family and close friends of Young Thug, some of which have known him for decades now, and it's used by Thug to shine his spotlight onto others. This then brings us to the wide array of artists that are signed to the label. Now, according to the Instagram, there are something like 10 plus artists currently signed to YSL, and for the sake of this video, we won't be delving into every single artist in depth, but we will be touching on the ones most pivotal to the YSL story. Undoubtedly, the most popular artist on the roster is Gunna, and he was the first artist to show proof of concept of YSL being successful. Gunna and Young Thug would meet each other through a mutual friend of theirs called Troop.
I met Thug through a mutual friend who knew him. Like, he was like like an uncle of mine named Troop. Like, rest in peace. Him and Thug was like real cool. And he introduced us to probably I would say like a month before he died. And then when he died, it kind of just brought us closer together, you know what I'm saying?
And you can see Gunna way before he was like a rap star or anything like that in multiple of Young Thug's early videos, such as the With That video, which you can see on screen right here. And fast forward a little bit later on, and Gunna would be signed to YSL, and in fact he would actually have the first project released through YSL with Drip Season in 2016. Success didn't come easy for Gunna, however, and despite a constant barrage of features with Thug, multiple solo projects, he wouldn't land his first RIAA certified single until the Lil Baby assisted Drip Too Hard, which came out in September of 2018.
Every other night another dollar getting made. Every other night started with a good day.
Which helped explode him to mainstream audiences across 2019. And since then, Gunna has gone on to conquer the mainstream hip-hop space. He has had countless hits at this point, whether it be his features with songs like Yosemite, Turks, or the recent Lemonade, or solo hits as well, such as Baby Birkin and One Call. And it's wild to think that at this point in time, he actually has more monthly Spotify listeners than Young Thug. As I said earlier, Gunna was really proof of concept for the YSL label. It's easy for an artist like Young Thug to start a label, sign an artist and release some music with them, but it's another thing to turn an unknown artist into a global star, and Gunna being the first helped to show that YSL as a label had potential. Now, the second artist that is proven to follow alongside similar lines to Gunna is Lil Keed, and Lil Keed hails from the same part of Atlanta that Young Thug is from, and even before knowing Young Thug, according to this interview here with BET, he would actually know Young Thug's family first, with Thugger's mum actually convincing Young Thug to sign Keed. And this video right here captures a moment that Young Thug first got a chance to listen to Lil Keed, which was to one of his earliest songs, Bag. And although Lil Keed was embraced very early on by Atlanta and 80s such as 21 Savage and Lil Yachty all the way back in 2018, a lot of Keed's success up until this point has actually been with his own solo material rather than his collaborations. 2018's Nameless proved to be a breakthrough single to him.
Hey, yeah,
take it. Yeah, she take it, never run it, take it.
And to this day stands as Keed's only RIAA certified song, and his second breakthrough song was Snake, which ended up going viral on TikTok.
Snake. Snake. Snake.
Spiraling its success, where it stands right now as his most played song on Spotify. Lil Keed is definitely making some of the most interesting music vocally speaking right now, and all signs point upwards for him right now, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what music he releases in the future. Now, in terms of well-known artists that have been able to establish like a proper mainstream solo career for themselves, Keed and Gunna typify the YSL roster and exemplify Thug's ability to turn a relatively unknown artist into a star. However, there are a few other key artists that have interesting ties to Thug that are key to touch on. Now, first to touch on is an artist who goes by the name Lil Duke, who was actually one of the earliest signees to YSL, and Lil Duke has been rapping for years now and should be a familiar name to seasoned Young Thug fans, having been featured on countless Young Thug projects and songs ever since his first guest appearance on I Came From Nothing 2 in 2011 on the song called Fuck 12, and he was actually featured twice on So Much Fun, on I Bought Her, and Cartier Gucci Scarf.
Kiss on my shit, need a cane. I'm blowing on good Mary Jane, hey.
And Duke and Young Thug have a storied history together and have been knowing each other way before their rap careers took off, as Young Thug explained in this interview right here.
Duke was around me before I was rapping. Me and Duke me and him from the same hood. So we been around each other before one of us was rapping. I always was rapping like 12, 13 years. I was rapping, I was like 8, 9 years old. When I started taking it serious, I was probably like 12 or 13.
Yeah.
I already knew him. We was already hanging with each other every day before then. We been hanging before.
Yeah.
We from the same hood.
And the next couple of artists to touch on are actually Young Thug's blood sisters, Dolly White and Hydora. And way before they were ever on a song with Young Thug, Thug was actually name dropping them in songs such as OD from Barter 6.
Darling, right, yeah, do it for your slime.
Dora, yeah, do it for you,
And fast forward a little bit later, and the first time the two ever rapped was actually kinda by accident on a song titled Family from Young Thug's I'm Up project, as they explained in this interview right here.
And one day me and Dora in the studio, and he wasn't recording, and that's when we made
what is it?
Family.
Family? Yeah, family.
Yeah, we did Family, and that shit was tight.
Yeah, we did family, and we was just doing some shit. And like they ended up, the engineer, he was mixing it, but we didn't know because we just recorded it. And then they just put the project out and we heard it. We was like, what the fuck? They kept that song?
And moving on, we get to Carlay, who, as I'm sure a lot of you guys would know, is actually the fiance of Young Thug and someone who has been in a relationship with Young Thug for a number of years now. And Young Thug actually spoke about meeting Carlay in this DJ Vlad interview right here from 2015. And this might be one of the most humble Thug moments ever, as he explains how he got rejected by her when they first met.
That was the first time we ever met. She turned me down. She was like, nah. I guess because I was too street or something. And then the second time we met in Miami, and she was with her boyfriend, and you know the little ball player guy? They his little friends, they built and stuff. I was like, hey, what you doing? She was like, I'm with my boyfriend. I was like, what? Oh, hate you.
And it wouldn't be until years later that we would hear Carlay and Young Thug on a song together, with their first collaboration being You Ain't Slime Enough from the first Slime Language project. Carlay explained in her No Jumper interview here that she actually wasn't interested in rapping and she was just doing poetry until the classic track from Future and Young Thug, Relationships, inspired her to record herself.
My mom, actually I got mad. Slime and Future made a song talking about relationships. And I was like, I called him like, I'm like, you got a song, like what are y'all, like what the hell? He was just like, Slime, do it. Go in the booth, like it's fun, just do it. So I went in the booth and I made a song and I previewed it on live. Man, I got so many like good reviews that I was like, bro, let me try this music.
And outside of these artists, there are several other smaller, lesser known artists on the come up now who are working to make a name for themselves out of the YSL label, who aren't really that well known yet and don't have too much of a documented story. However, I personally think a rapper who goes by the name Young KO,
I throw on vitamin jeans. She said my dinner no clean. My Benji blue and they green.
who signed at the start of 2020, is the most promising artist coming out of YSL right now. What makes KO so special is the fact that he's only 16 years old, so to be making the music he's making at such a young age just shows his innate talent. It's also interesting to note that alongside being with YSL, he's also signed to 777, a record label founded by the popular youth culture figure John Ross. KO has already gotten co-signs from the likes of Young Bands, and his music with Pierre Bourne stashed away also, and I highly recommend checking out some of his music if you aren't tapped in yet.
Get by it if you want it. Ain't no fuss, it's no arguing. I got 50s in them honey.
But yeah, right there is just a brief overview of kind of like what's gone on into the whole making of YSL and a few members on the roster. And personally, I'm really excited for Slime Language 2. Some of the snippets have been sounding so hard, and hopefully it drops sooner rather than later. But yeah, that's all from me today, guys. It's been your Dig. Make sure to hit the like button if you haven't. Also, you can see other No Jumper videos on the screen right now. Make sure to check them out as well. Thanks a lot for watching. Peace.